All right, guys. Like I promised, 2006 is on the way, and first show we get Hell Freezes Over. This is a pretty good show. I wouldn't say it was great. There's some things I didn't like about it, but let's break it down. We get Homicide versus Roderick Strong versus Bryan Danielson for the FIP title. This is when Homicide finally lost the FIP title to Bryan Danielson. The match is really short because Homicide had a shoulder injury, so it was really short. Christopher Daniels versus Jay Lethal, really good stuff. Check it out. It was like 3 1/4 stars. Samoa Joe versus Bj Witmer. I've heard some people say this is Samoa Joe's one of his best matches in ROH. But I think the person that I heard that from probably wasn't that familiar with the company. I wouldn't quite say that, but this is really stiff. Bj Witmer did some great selling, and Joe just was very stiff with him, and it just made for a great match. Next up, we had AJ Styles versus Matt Sydal. Definitely match of the night. This guy stole the show. Great chemistry, just as good as you would expect it to be. I think AJ and Sydal are two of the most athletic wrestlers in the business today. They just pulled off some sick moves. Great stuff. Check it out. Main event, Bryan Danielson versus Chris Hero. All right, I didn't talk about this, but the thing about this show was ROH and CZW were running on a show on the same day. So this is when they decided, I guess, to start a ROH versus CZW feud. So this is where it pretty much started at. So Bryan Danielson faced the leader of CZW, Chris Hero, and Hero was really out of shape in this match. It really wasn't. It was really tough to watch. I'd say towards the end, the commentators did a really good job of adding drama to the match. They really sold the fact that if Chris Hero did win the ROH title, that it would pretty much be the end of ROH, because Hero was the leader of CZW, and CZW hated Ring of Honor because they were the total opposite. So. But Hero did some submissions where you thought maybe Danielson might tap out. So yeah, there was a lot of drama in the match. But overall, the match is just kind of hard to watch. It's nowhere near as good as the stuff that they had in 2009 between Bryan Danielson and Chris Hero. So Hell Freezes Over. It's a good show, but there's some things that I really don't like about it. But I definitely recommend picking it up because there is some really good matches on it. All right, next show was Tag Wars 2006. If you guys might remember. I said the Trios tournament from 2005 was pretty much the worst show of 2005, so I guess they scratched the Trios idea and just came up with just a little tag team title tournament or tag team tournament. Instead of having all these matches, they just put together 2 semifinal matches and then there would be a final. The finals was actually Jimmy Rave, Alex Shelley, and Abyss of the Embassy versus Matt Sydal, Jimmy Yang, and Jack Evans. The tag team wrestling on the show was really good. All the tag team matches were very fun to watch. I really didn't have a problem with any of it. It flowed a lot better than the Trios tournament. And, Matt Sydal and Jack Evans really stole the show on this show. They did a lot of their high-flying maneuvers and really added a lot to the show. So that was pretty good. Nigel McGuinness versus Delirious. I don't know, Nigel's... This was not a pure title match, but Nigel's matches during this time were just really nothing special. Christopher Daniels versus Loki, it was a really good match, 3.5 stars. Probably the best match that they had in Ring of Honor. They really didn't. They only had a singles match, a round robin challenge one, which is pretty short, but this was pretty good. It was one of Loki's last matches in ROH. And I thought he went out with a bang. And the aftermath was pretty cool because they played off of the era of Honor Begins when Christopher Daniels did not want to shake hands. And now all of a sudden Daniels wanted to shake Loki's hand. And then Loki goes like, "We should have done that 4 years ago." So that was pretty cool to see. And the main event was Austin Aries and Roderick Strong versus Bryan Danielson and Jay Lethal. Really good match, 4 stars. Really loved this match. They got a lot of time, and it was just very sharp, very nicely executed. Roderick Strong looked really good here. Roderick Strong actually went over Bryan Danielson, made him tap out to the stronghold. Really sets up a Bryan Danielson Roderick Strong rematch in the future. Just an excellent match. One of the most underrated matches of 2006. All right, next show is called Dissension. It's called Dissension because the Embassy and Bj Witmer and Jimmy Jacobs were showing shades of splitting up on this show. So the first match that's really worth mentioning is Loki versus Jack Evans. Loki just beat the shit out of Jack Evans. It's one of the most brutal beatdowns that I've seen in ROH. The match is not really that long, but while it lasted, it was really fun to watch. Jack Evans was kind of disrespecting Loki, and Loki just wasn't he wasn't gonna take any shit from Jack Evans. So that was pretty much the premise of that match. Then we had Austin Aries and Roderick Strong versus Jimmy Jacobs and Bj Witmer. Not that great of a match. This is more about showing dissension between Jimmy Jacobs and Bj Witmer, like I talked about. Christopher Daniels versus Matt Sydal. It was pretty good, but Daniels hurt his ankle. Sydal did like an arm drag to Daniels, and then Daniels landed really bad on his ankle. So it kind of hurt the match a little bit, but it was still pretty good. They still busted their ass. Still like a 3 1/4 star match. Main event: Bryan Dennison versus AJ Styles for the ROH title. This is why we watch professional wrestling right here. And it's a great match. Is it their best match in ROH out of the 3 matches that they've had? I really can't tell you. I mean, it's pretty much a toss-up. I like the main event spectacles match a little bit more, but this was just amazing because AJ busted his ass too. He didn't hold back because he was in TNA. I mean, this is a pretty evenly wrestled match between 2 of the best wrestlers of the decade. I mean, so what more could you ask for? And the thing about this match was, it kind of I True Slayer always talks about how TNA should have pulled their talent from ROH, and I guess it's because of matches like this. Because Bryan Dennison cleanly went over AJ Styles, so it kind of made TNA kind of look weak because you have ROH's champion versus the poster boy of TNA, and the ROH's champion beats him by submission. So I don't see how that makes TNA look that good. I know this isn't nationally televised or anything like that, but still, I mean, the wrestling fans are smart enough to see this stuff, and they could develop their own opinion. They see Bryan Dennison and AJ Styles going at it. They could decide for themselves who was the better wrestler. And at the same time, you have Bryan Dennison cleanly going over AJ. So, I don't know. It was still an excellent match. Definitely check it out. 4 1/4 stars. All right, next up we get Unscripted 2. All the Unscripted shows are pretty bad. And I wouldn't say this was bad. There's some things on the show that really made it good. Well, there's actually 2 things that really made the show worth getting. All right. The first thing is Nigel McGuinness and Austin Aries for the Pure title. Without a doubt, Nigel McGuinness' best ROH match up to that point. Nigel and Aries definitely stole the show. Don't expect this to be as good as their Rising Above match. It was totally different. This is a Pure title match. So it's just a totally different animal, but it was still the match of the night. Like 3 3/4, bordering into 4 stars. It's debatable, so definitely check that out. Bryan Dennison faced Xavier for the ROH title. Xavier made a 1-night appearance. This ended in a disqualification, so but it sets up the main event pretty nicely. Now, the other good thing about the show was it featured the return of CM Punk for 1 night only, kind of like as a favor to the fans, because the thing about this was there was a big snowstorm, so a lot of the wrestlers could not make the show. Like Loki, it was supposed to be Loki versus Roderick Strong. Matt Sydal couldn't show up. Bryan Dennison was supposed to defend the ROH title against Alex Shelley, so Alex Shelley could not show up for this show. Yeah, so CM Punk came back, and if the fans were pissed off by intermission, then they could actually get a refund. But since CM Punk came out before intermission, everyone chose to stay. So that was pretty cool. Bj Witmer and Roderick Strong had a match before the main event, which was very solid. It was a little bit too long, but got to give them credit. They did bust their ass out there. Even it was booked a little bit too long though. All right, the main event was Bryan Danielson and the mystery partner. That was CM Punk versus Jimmy Rave and Adam Pearce. Really good match. I mean, it was a little bit too long, but it was cool to see Punk out there again. Towards the end, the match got really exciting, and it was pretty dramatic. It took Jimmy Rave actually tapped out to the what do you call CM Punk's finisher? God, I can't even remember it. The Anaconda Vice. Yeah, he tapped out to the Anaconda Vice, but it took a while for Jimmy Rave to tap out. Like, he was fighting it off like a bitch. But yeah, I mean, CM Punk's promo at the end was really cool. He really got under this fan's skin. Him and this fan kept going back and forth. And this is actually the show when CM Punk did the Snow Angels. I was looking for this show. I couldn't figure out which show it was, but it was actually on this show when he just went outside into the snow and did some Snow Angels, which was pretty cool. Because I've seen it on the highlight packages, but I never really figured out what show it was from. But it was from Unscripted 2. Unscripted 2 is not a good show, though. I have to say, everything else besides what I talked about was pretty forgettable. So, but it is worth picking up though, because you know, CM Punk's last ROH appearance, last official appearance from him saying goodbye to the East Coast, and you get a great match between Nigel McGuinness and Austin Aries. So, you know, all right, that's pretty much it. The Milestone series will be next. All right, thanks for watching.